All right, so we just found out, we just finalized the details for this trip. So we are in Childress, Texas. We're on our way driving to Loveland, Colorado. On Thursday, we're gonna be with Brian Shaw at his home gym while he's deadlifting. And we'll be using our vision system, be setting our vision system up and collecting data off Brian while he's lifting. We just found out that Brian has given us permission to allow me to do my heavy bench press workout in his gym while he's working out, which is really cool. I'm gonna get a chance to work out in Brian Shaw's gym while Brian's prepping for the Shaw Classic. Then what's going to happen is afterwards, we're going to interview Brian, and we're going to go over the data from the Shaw Classic last year when we predicted Alexei Novikov's world record. And then he's actually going to interview me in his podcast about what we're doing with our vision system. So we got a whole day planned, probably going to be at Brian's place for 8 hours shooting content, which is really, really exciting.
Last year.
I was actually, one of the things I want to talk to Brian about is how, like, when I order stuff from you guys, I get everything in 2 days.
Carol Ann.
Right.
Carol Ann and Katie and Crystal, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, how, there's so many people who do this,
yeah,
right? But nobody delivers it as fast as you guys do.
Yay, that makes me so happy. I wish Ryan was hearing that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's really weird.
That we, for the most part, we pack up until the UPS or USPS picks up that day.
Right.
Right. So sometimes we'll literally ship an order came in 5 minutes ago, and then
it definitely shows. I mean,
that's awesome. How was your trip?
It was good. It was really smooth. We were scrambling last night because the engineer who was supposed to come with us to do the vision system, he got sick Sunday.
Oh no.
Yeah. He's still working. But because Brian's 8 weeks out, we were like, we're not bringing somebody who's even remotely got a cold or whatever. So we have to do the data stuff remotely today. So
holy cow!
So we're gonna we have the vision system to set up, but Justin is the one who needs to do the analysis.
Are insane.
So we were totally scrambling last night.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to bore you. Come with me, and I'm going to show you the gym. I think Brian's over here.
When we do our big heavy workouts, they're always in a really hardcore.
Perfect.
How's it going?
Good to see you, man.
Absolutely. How are you?
Pleasure, man. Good seeing you again.
How's the trip going?
Good. There one little sidetrack, which the engineer who was supposed to come with us, Justin.
Okay.
He's sick.
That's
so
too bad.
He's fine, but we were like worried that
Sure.
We did not want to be the reason you were sick for 2 weeks. And the YouTube video comes out 2 weeks from now, and Brian's like, I just got over a cold.
Whatever it is. Cool.
All right. So today you're gonna
deadlift.
Awesome.
Yep.
And how long will your workout take?
The deadlift portion of it?
The whole workout.
2 hours maybe?
Okay.
2.5.
All right.
Something like that.
There's going to be a camera set up in front of you where you're lifting.
Perfect.
There'll be a camera set up. We're going to capture all that footage. And then the idea is at noon or whatever, 11:30, 12, we'll sit down and
go over it.
We'll go over the data with you. We're going to film all that stuff. this is basically the same concept. The idea was we wanted to be able to run a camera, have an athlete walk up, get in the deadlift position, have our vision system realize that's a person doing a deadlift.
Okay.
Then we want to start tracking data. Lift, we want to track velocity, acceleration, and force.
That's wild.
Right? We want to track those. If we could track those three things, just like velocity-based training, and you track velocity over time across your sets, you can calculate what your maximum repetition is going to be. It's the exact same concept. Now, I'm not a data scientist.
Okay.
I'm a software developer.
There you go.
So I built the first vision system from scratch using off-the-shelf components to just see if I could do it.
Yeah.
And then it worked. Then we reached out to Brian. We were like,
That's awesome. Yeah.
if we want to collect data off of like the best athletes, we already knew Brian was data driven. So we reached out to Brian about sponsoring the Shaw Classic. So then we collect all the data with our system. And I actually had a matrix. So how did we actually predict that Alexei was going to break the world record?
Yeah.
It wasn't just him, by the way. It was Alexei, Gabe, and Konstantin all had results that yielded, they had a world record lift in them. Now, Konstantin's an outlier because of the way he deadlifts. He does a massive amount of force to get the bar above his knee. Then he pulls, right? Whereas you don't do that.
Sure.
You use constant force throughout your whole lifts, which you're going to see here. Alexei does the same thing. Constant force. Trey also. Constant force the whole time. So Konstantin was an outlier. Gabe also is more of a traditional deadlifter. So he has constant force over time. So we had 3 people that we predicted could break the world record. And the way it was the force and the velocity. It's on a matrix table. So we have force, velocity, and then you intersect them, and it has a weight. Actually, there's a table for each weight. At 900 pounds, force and velocity equals this weight. If I've got this force, this velocity. So he did it differently. So what I did was we brought Justin in. He's a data scientist. We hired him a couple months ago. I gave him the vision system and said, I want you to build it as the way it should be built today based on current scholarship. So he started from scratch with the same requirements. So what's important to note is that the vision system operates in 3 modes. Mode number 1 is we can take an old piece of footage and we can run it through the model.
Okay.
So not live, we can just run it through the model.
So just a video.
We can just take a video and we can take all old video and run it through the model and we can plot everything. All right.
Interesting.
Number 2, we can plug a camera in and we can run the model on a live stream that's coming through. That's what we were going to do, but we can't run it on our MacBooks. That's why we got to do remote. Number 3, this is step 3. We will deploy the model to the camera. So the camera that we've picked is an AI camera.
Okay.
So it has a processor on board that will run our machine learning algorithms, just like our computers are running.
Awesome.
Okay. So, and then you could deploy to the camera and do it as a standalone. Now, the one question we have is, where do we put that data? Like, are we going to store it on a USB drive or whatever?
Sure.
So what we're going to do today is we're just going to do mode 1, which is Justin's going to go through the lifts from last year. We're going to focus on you, and we'll focus on Alexei. We originally predicted, I think, on his 900-pound lift, he actually didn't have a projection of a world record lift.
Interesting.
Then I think he did 950. Right, I'm pretty sure he did 950. On his 950 lift, he was 1260 and some change.
Wow. Okay.
Then I think he did 1050. When he did 1050, that was the first time we predicted a 1270 lift.
Okay.
And then he just held it. He was 1270.
So it stayed 1270.
It kept predicting 1270, 1270. Even on his world record lift, it predicted 1272.
1270.
And then in his interview, when the MC asked him, was interviewing him right afterwards, he said, it looked really easy. Do you think you had more in you? And he said, yeah, I think I have 1270.
Now, we just saw a world record, but I gotta say, you made that look easy. How much do you think you could do? You already won, but what do you think your limit is, Alexei?
I think last 10 kilos, it's will be okay for me.
So we're talking about 1250.
He actually said that
Did he really?
in the interview.
Wow.
And we were like,
realize that.
by the way, we had no idea. We were just as shocked
that
we could predict it as accurately as we did while we were there. And the fundamental difference for us was you guys are so consistent. So what you're going to see here is the video come up.
Okay.
We're going to plot your pose.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a chart that's plotting velocity, force. The slope of the green line is going to be velocity.
Gotcha.
That's
Yes.
what we will correlate with your velocity data.
Yes, and right now velocity is being charted in red. It's mostly covered by acceleration. You'll notice it's very choppy. That's just because if you look here, it's probably right about to go away, so I'm going to point it on the next video. And right now it's quite chaotic. If you look at this green dot, that's the approximate centroid of all your arm points. And I don't know if this shows up, but
Yeah.
it is jittering. That's
Okay.
what causes the shakiness. Basically, the next step is to implement something that controls for that jitter, which is just a product of pretty much every
So it just says my
image pose estimation.
It's almost like your CG, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
It's almost like your center of gravity. Now,
Yes.
if you look at the way you lift, you look at your data relative to other athletes. The control of your slope is what stands out.
Yes. This gives us a spike in velocity, which is also leads to a spike in acceleration, but it is noisy right now. So the next step is basically implement a smoothing, a more aggressive smoothing methodology that handles that jitter effectively.
Okay.
And
So if
then
we're going
we'll
to
have
plot
a
it on the
smooth
screen
velocity
during the
curve.
live stream, we want it to be
Exactly.
a very smooth line
Makes
for
sense.
a viewer, so that the viewer will see what they're actually seeing. And the other thing we want to do is we want to predict whether they're going to succeed.
Got it.
So we want to, and that's was in the old model. We don't have it in this model yet, but
Okay.
we'll add it in. We want to predict red or green that
Okay.
whether we think they're going to get the lift up.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
All right, we go to the next one. So one of the questions is, if we do this, do viewers want to see that, or do we want to remove that piece, or do we want to leave maybe the green dot? Because we don't have to draw the pose. We
Okay.
just the pose can
It could-
actually be hidden in the background.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all of this, there's nothing rendered on this that actually has to be rendered. All the rendering is just for convenience. Even this data is just all back there in the program. We could just spit that out to like a file somewhere if we wanted.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. Check.
Bacon, sausage, French toast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Shaw Street Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Shaw, and today I have a special guest with me, Mr. Walker Reynolds, and I'm going to read his title, just so I don't mess it up, but he is the President and Solutions Architect at 4.0 Solutions and the Board Chairman at Intellic Integration in Dallas, Texas. And he also happens to be a sponsor of the Shaw Classic. So we're in here, we're kind of doing a little bit of behind the scenes work for the Shaw Classic, getting a little bit of intel on me, and we're going to go into all of that type of stuff because I feel like people will find that really fascinating. But how are you doing, man?
But we've spent for those of you who don't know, we've spent an entire day together. This
Yes.
is the culmination of the whole day, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. I was adopted by a family in upstate New York. I was the oldest kid of 5 kids that were adopted in that family. And my stepfather, who is my dad, who I refer to as my dad, he was the first person in my life who taught the values of discipline, respect, hard work, but also achieving excellence, like how to achieve excellence. And I got to see with my own eyes how my dad went from like a working class guy to becoming a Hall of Fame trap shooter. Like he's in the New York State Trap Shooting Hall of Fame. He's a world famous trap shooter, but he was a purely working class guy. And I got to see like what it took as a kid. He used to sleep at night with his headphones on, and it was like self-affirmation stuff, visualizing success.
Interesting.
Visualizing breaking 500 birds straight with it in his mind, the mind's eye, all these like really important concepts. So with that, that's sort of carried over with me, and I think that's how your content has resonated with me, my family, my team. So how we came to the Shaw Classic was my middle son is a huge fan of yours. We've been watching your content for 4 or 5 years. I was a very serious weightlifter when I was younger, but I took about 10 years off to build my companies. So I worked 100-hour weeks, 120 hours a week, didn't lift up a weight, didn't go for a single jog, nothing. And then my son, Jared, started powerlifting a couple of years ago, and I started powerlifting again just to spend time with him. And I think you and I I know we're very similar in the way that we approach solving problems, and so I took a very scientific approach to becoming a strength athlete. So you're very data driven. I'm also very data driven. A few years ago, we were developing a product for Toyota, and it was a vision system for ergonomics. And while we were powerlifting, I was thinking, oh, this technology we used in Toyota might really actually, we could probably use this same technology in the fitness industry to help us become better deadlifters, bench pressers, and squatters. We could use what's known as pose estimation in a vision system to basically monitor us while we're lifting and then tell us what we're doing wrong, what's the likelihood we're going to get hurt, what's the likelihood we're going to have a successful rep, where do we need to adjust our ergonomics, and then later on it was, I want to be able to calculate what my maximum bench press would be or what my maximum deadlift would be. And that's sort of how we ended up getting introduced to you. I developed a vision system 2 years ago, literally as a prototype, and then was like, you know what, we really need to collect data off of professional athletes. Why don't let's reach out to Brian Shaw and see if, there's synergy there. That's literally, our team sent an email to you guys.
Absolutely.
We got together a year and a half ago. We sponsored the Shaw Classic last year. And we really didn't know what we were doing, right? It was, hey, we want to sponsor the deadlift. We want to put our vision system on the floor. We want to monitor the athletes. We want to collect data off the athletes. And let's see how reliable this system is at predicting maximum weight that can be lifted. And last year, we predicted that Alexei Novikov would break the world record, not just Alexei. Konstantin was also, he was in the running, and so was Gabe Pena. That all three of them on that day could have broken the world record in the Hummer Tire deadlift based on the analysis of the data in our vision system. We calculated that Alexei would be able to lift about 1,272 pounds. He ended up breaking the world record at 1,210. In the post interview, he said, I think I got 1,270 in me. The data supports that. So we were able to predict the world record using this vision system, and then the last year has been, okay, where do we go next? It works. And
Absolutely.
The partnership with Shaw worked great. Now what do we do?
Mentioning the one part I picked up there was with your dad and being a trap shooter. That's fascinating because it's such a repeated thing, and having the confidence to do it again and again and again. And I can only imagine in high level shooting. I've talked to some guys that have actually participated, and it's fascinating like how many rounds they need to shoot, and the pressure only mounts, right? So it's like bowling in a way, right? Like you get a strike and then you need to get another strike, you need to get another strike, and kind of keep going like that. So it's interesting that he was listening to things and the things that you picked up on when you were young, watching that, and I would say with kids, sometimes they pick up more just from observing that you don't even realize they're picking up on. So it's probably very valuable what he was teaching you with doing that, and just with practicing himself and trying to be so dedicated and so great at something, separating him.
You said something during lunch that my father used to say all the time, and I was going to point it out and just let it pass, but I'll bring it up here. When you talked about how in the deadlift, you literally listed off the sequence that you go through every time you do a deadlift. And you said, it got to the point where the reason I do that, well, there's lots of reasons, but one of the reasons is whether I'm alone in the gym or whether I'm in front of thousands of people, I know that I can repeat, I can repeat the deadlift the way that I know that I can do it. And that's the familiar piece. I asked my father this one time. He was shooting in the Grand American, which is the biggest trap shooting event in the world. It's tens of thousands of competitors. When you win a Grand American championship, that makes you, that's like winning the NBA championship.
It's the best.
It's the biggest deal in the world. And I asked my father if he ever got nervous in shoot-offs. They didn't drop the birds during the original event, but they start dropping the birds in the, missing the clay pigeons in the shoot-off event. And my father is a notoriously successful shoot-off shooter.
Interesting.
And I asked my dad, why is it you don't crack there? And he said, because every target I shoot at is the first target I've shot at that day.
That's awesome.
He said, it's literally repeatable. So when you said that at lunch, I was like, and actually we were driving over and Jared's girlfriend, Alyssa said, you and Brian are so much alike, like so much of your values are the same, and so many of the things he said at lunch are things that I thought you had said to me already.
Yeah, I mean, you have to repeat it, and it's just what made sense to me.
And one of the things that has stood out, we have collected tens of thousands of deadlift movements. So that is, we've scraped the internet for them. We've collected them off of our own athletes. We've collected them off of people in our gym. And one of the things that absolutely blew my mind about the data that we looked at last year from the Shaw Classic is how repeatable professionals are. And so here's a really good example. We talk about data fidelity in fitness. If you watch the average person, say, do a bench press, and you watch them do 10 reps, and you really, really watch, you zoom in, use a high resolution camera, 120 frames a second, you really zoom in and watch them. If they do 5 of those reps the same way, that's what a person who's been in the gym for 5 years, the alpha in your gym.
So it'd be a 50%.
If they do 50% of those reps the same, that's a good number. But you guys, you pros, you're all 90% consistent. I mean, the numbers were absolutely mind-boggling. It really stood out as to why it is you're the pros and other people are not. And it is your ability to repeat.